Want to do some NBA stuff for the YouTube page here. We did not get to the Cat trade for a couple of reasons. One, it happened on a Friday night. The next part was that we did football and then we traveled. So now that the dust is settled, because there were some moving pieces and some great cap work here by the Knicks on their end with some of the restrictions moving forward and taking on a contract like Cat. So credit to them, finding a way to get creative and third team being involved and all this stuff. But when you see the headline pieces, Karl-Anthony Towns going from Minnesota to the Knicks for Julius Randle and Donte DiVincenzo, there are a lot of trades where it takes me a little while. You look at the money, you look at the picks, and you go, okay, well, what are the protections? When does that convey? Does it even convey? This is just for the pieces for pieces. It made sense. I understood the trade immediately. I understood the trade from every angle and all the motivations behind it. Years and years ago, when I first started out on this, talking to GMs about stuff, like one GM had always said, when it comes to trades, you win the trade more often than not when the most talented players come to your team. Wow. Thank you for the insight, Russillo. No, I get it. But it's something I'll always kind of think about, where you start loading up all these pieces. Oh, we got this guy. He was taken in the lottery 2 years ago. Okay, well, why did they trade him? We have these picks, but the protections aren't all that great. Like if you just default to whenever we do trades, we'd like the best player to be on our team at the end of the trade, you are probably going to win more of them than you're going to lose. And I think a talent in, talent out thing, New York wins this, but it's more complicated than that. So let's run through a bunch of things. As far as New York starting five with Brunson, who he is now, OG, Hart, Bridges, and Cat, that's serious. You're ready for business. It doesn't make you the favorite in the East with Boston, finding a way to win a title and running through everybody without even having the Porzingis option for the most part. But that's serious. But it also fits a massive need for a team that has serious playoff aspirations, in that with Hartenstein moving on to Oklahoma City, Mitchell Robinson's injury return projections landing right now, as of now, December, maybe into January. So who knows if that'll be good news, if it seems bad now, but you might be hoping that's actually accurate. So it was like, who's playing center on this team? And knowing what the money that the Knicks have spent on their players, despite the massive discount from Brunson that allows some of this stuff to happen moving forward, which is a contract I still don't understand. But with such a, not apparent, like it was a devastating need. They needed somebody at center, at least for the first few months until Mitchell Robinson came back. But then you still probably needed some kind of offensive center. And the idea of a stretch five, because Cat would probably play power forward with Mitchell Robinson, depending on the matchup. But I would imagine they'd be closing a lot of the games in the playoffs with Cat at the five, depending on how they feel about where they're at defensively, that you have that adaptability with Towns in your lineup now with his skill set. Like it just makes a lot of sense. And I still think that for any team that has title aspirations, you have to have a big that's primarily a defensive big that protects the rim, that can match up against another huge body, just kind of matching body type with body type. Even if it clogs you up a bit offensively with Mitchell Robinson opposed to Karl-Anthony Towns playing center, you have the option. Okay. It's just, I think it's really important to at least have the option in a specific playoff matchup. And now with that being your 4-5 combination, Cat probably being your closing five because you want more offense, or feeling like defensively Mitchell Robinson's going to close for us. You have all of these things in theory. And that's why, for a bunch of different reasons, it makes a ton of sense for the Knicks. If you look at the Knicks defensive numbers, let's say 6 feet and in, opposing field goal percentage, they were 7th in the NBA last year. I don't really know what that number will mean now because they don't have the two bigs with Hartenstein and Robinson in there. Cat defensively, people can tell you he improved because some of the metrics improved, but it improved because Gobert's there. He was a mess early in his career defensively. He's all first team, stupid foul. So I don't know how you stop doing that when you're doing it this long. So him without the Gobert protection, we're probably back to early Minnesota stuff with Cat. But that's not why he's on the Knicks. He's on the Knicks because he is a lethal shooter. The numbers back it up, we think. We'll get to that. And now with an attacking Bridges, Brunson, OG having his moments, Hart can basically just be asked to do anything and find a way to fit in around everybody else. It just makes a lot of sense that they can be one of those 5-out teams if somebody is talented as a shooter at center or power forward in Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, on Minnesota's side of it, at least the pieces coming in, Randle's almost like Cat light. Like when you go through the basketball reference stuff for Randle, he's 19, 9, and 4 in his career. His three-point shooting the last couple seasons, granted he was hurt this year, so that number's a little bit lower, but he's had some good seasons from three. So I think it's still somebody you have to respect from the outside. But a little bit like Cat with Randle, when you look at the overall numbers, you go, is that telling me the most accurate story of who he is? Because Randle, for the most part, I think he's 20 points a game now for 6 straight seasons, going all the way back to the New Orleans year. A lot of times before Brunson became this, he was the number one option on teams that just weren't really that good. So he was the best player of those teams for the most part. I mean, we can get into like minor arguments, but I think we'd all agree that a lot of it was he was good enough to make the shots, but no one ever really took any of those teams all that seriously. If you look at the Brunson-Randle part, I was always worried about that because Randle gets hurt this year. He's not part of the closing group as far as the season's concerned. I'm not talking about the last 5 minutes of the game. But I was always worried about, Randle has to give the keys to Brunson if he's still there. But would Brunson have some of those ball-stopping moments where it becomes easier to guard? Everybody's kind of facing one dude. And even though Randle's actually a really good passer and has always been all the way back to Kentucky, I worried about, the constant question of complementary offensive players because I want as many guys out there that are a threat with the basketball. Complementary, then veering into the negative side of where it's actually redundant and getting in each other's way. And I think there was a chance of that potentially happening with Randle and Brunson. DiVincenzo can do kind of anything you ask of him, a lot like Josh Hart. I think he could fit in anywhere. Any team that DiVincenzo would be on, okay, we're going to find him his minutes. Maybe it's 28, 30. Maybe it's less. But with Minnesota, I think he's at 30-plus minutes. I would think so. He's 40% from three the last 2 years. He was 43% from the playoffs, 18 a game in the playoffs as well. He competes. He's tough as hell. And he's just ready to go. And I think he's a perfect fit with Minnesota and some of the other guys that are already on this team and their defensive mindset. So I worry a bit on the Randle kind of ball stopping, clogging a bit, the Randle Gobert part of it. How much help will that be off of them? But, Cat was supposed to be that stretch guy for Minnesota in the playoffs. So we can say, okay, this is like the first real playoff run for him. Maybe if he had stayed in Minnesota, he would have been more comfortable. He would have had some better numbers. But he was really disappointing, I thought, in huge moments. If he's even close to what his numbers say he is, maybe Minnesota's in the NBA Finals. So I understand. But I think the biggest question you have to ask is, okay, but why does Minnesota trade Cat? I'm not the biggest fan, despite what his basketball reference stuff says. A 4-time All-Star. His career numbers 23, 11, and 3, 52, 40% splits. He's 29 in November. Some of the advanced numbers in his previous seasons are really impressive. They've dipped off a bit, but that probably has more to do with rebound opportunities with Gobert being in the lineup with him, and then also just overall offensive opportunities that we're going to take a hit with who Anthony Edwards is. So I don't even know that he's slowing down at 28, again, 29 in November. It's just the reality of there's just going to be less opportunities as people around him got better, and then the Gobert rebounding thing on top of everything else. But remember when we were talking about Derrick Rose and his retirement, and I got into the part about how he won the MVP, and it was damn near unanimous in the season against LeBron. And if you go back and look at Derrick Rose's numbers versus what LeBron's numbers are in that season, a decade later, you're thinking, how did that happen? Like, how did the voting come down to so? And part of it was the story. It was the story of Derrick Rose. But I also brought up another premise, and that is, I don't want to just go back to Basketball Reference in years and have that be the truth and ignore the reality of how it felt in the situation. Now, both can be entirely misleading. We can be leading to ourselves. We can be getting caught up in stuff and then look back and go, maybe we were just, our perspective was skewed. But it also doesn't, some people are totally married to this. It doesn't mean that then you can just look at the numbers years later and think, okay, all of this is telling the truth. Because if you look at Cat's just Basketball Reference page, I don't think it tells the truth about the reality of who he is as a player. Because a guy at that size who has put up those numbers, who can shoot from three as consistently as he has, 40% for his career, has made 4 All-Star teams, all right? Why is anyone trading that guy if you're this close to competing for a title? We can get to the financial restrictions for Minnesota moving forward when they brought over Gobert and the Anthony Edwards extension, all that kind of stuff, fine. But this is really about Minnesota being like, we're okay moving on from him and bringing back Randle and, again, DiVincenzo. And I felt like when the trade happened, it confirmed all the doubts that I've had about Cat. Nice player, some really impressive stats. Feel like that page on Basketball Reference kind of lies to you a little bit. Whether it's dumb fouls, the pointless drives. He called himself the best shooting big of all time. I think that's Durant or Dirk. I don't care what the stats are. There's levels to shooting, and it's not just how far away you are standing from the rim. And so it makes sense for all the parties involved, but I think you have to ask yourself, if this was the market for Cat, does this mean this is how the league looks at him? And does this mean, like, yeah, I mean, the confirmation is that the doubts that you may have had about Cat, it's pretty clear that the Timberwolves felt the exact same way. All right, let's bring in Ceruti here. Media days abound. It's one of my favorite pieces of NBA content. Everybody's happy. So what we're going to do is Ceruti's going to throw me some highlights from NBA Media Day quotes. I'm going to see if I can guess who it is, and then we'll discuss.
Yeah, I have 6 things. Mostly players, although one is from a beat reporter, but we'll get to that. We'll start off easy. This one you probably saw, like everybody else, but it needs to be discussed. This guy said he lost 25 to 30 pounds in the offseason and wants to lose more. Best shape of my life vibes. Can't wait. The quote is, "There's no agenda. There's no all-star. There's no all-NBA. There's none of that," he said. "It's whatever it takes to make sure that I get to that point and I'm ready to go, because basically every single year of my career, I've been hurt in the playoffs. So that's the goal. And it's all about doing whatever it takes to get there."
Yeah.
Seems obvious.
Sounds like a little excuse making. Not Amani Bates, who apparently went the other way with the poundage. That's Embiid. And that's exactly what he needs to do. He needs to not worry about any of the other stuff. He needs to stop pretending everybody hates him. I don't know why the people in his ear think that this is some cool motivating factor. I still think people like Embiid more than he realizes. But as he ages, and with this injury history, some fluky, maybe some not, I'm of the belief that as he gets older, he needs to go dunking and get lighter and lighter. And if he's ready and healthy with this team, they're not my favorite in the East, but you start the season, you go, we have a real shot to win the conference. And I think that's totally fair. So I don't know. His quotes the last year plus have started to kind of drive me crazy. And it sounds a bit like excuse making there to say, well, I've been hurt every year in the playoffs, and that's the only reason or whatever. Like, there's some other stuff in there. He didn't look super comfortable in some of those playoff games, which I think is a real thing. So we'll see. But I like it. I like it so far. I just don't even know if I would notice 25, 30 pounds. He's so big. I don't even know, like, what are we expecting what he looks like when he comes in, starts running around? Are we going to notice it? I don't even know if we would, and it could be totally accurate.
Yeah, I mean, his body type, when he came into the league, and obviously, everybody's skinny coming out of college, but he just looks wider, like, not fatter. He's just like, his hips look wider to me. And so I don't, is the Duncan thing possible? Because Duncan at the end was really skinny. Like, I don't think he's not Jokic level physique, but he looks like a guy that carries a lot of weight. So I'm kind of interested to see if it's even, I don't know if it's even possible for him to exist and properly be himself 25, 30, 35 pounds lighter. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, what's the next one?
All right, this is actually, so that we're going to go a little off here. This is from a team beat writer, but I did enjoy this quote. Ready? The vibes around this team are at an all-time high. This is my 5th season covering them and my 5th training camp, and I cannot remember this team having this kind of positive, joyous, and upbeat energy.
It sounded like Lakers propaganda a little bit.
It is Lakers propaganda.
It is?
That was Jovan Buha, Lakers, talking about the new vibes under JJ Redick. I do too. I know. And I was just like, when he says stuff, it's not fake. But I was surprised by it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because there's a familial thing. We got Bronny's there. Everybody's talking. And I don't know. I saw something with AD the other day. Was like, oh, Bronny hit a shot over LeBron, and the whole team was giving LeBron shit, which is actually pretty fun. I don't know. Once we get into the season, is this team any good? I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're good. But I still, you got that kind of season from LeBron and the health season you got from AD last year, and it didn't really amount to anything. I mean, sometimes I start to think, should we just be thrilled because it's the Lakers and it's LeBron? I think the standard is is maybe out of whack now, but is the real accomplishment that they're still really competitive. But then it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. Is AD awesome or is he not? When he's healthy, he's always awesome. So they should be good enough. And, we'll see. We'll see. But nobody's picking him in the West.
No. We'll see how the vibes are come midseason. All right. This is a new man, maybe realizing that he needs to clean up his act a little bit. The quote is, I think for me, honestly, I think I really wanted to apologize in the sense of showing a lack of professionalism at times, showing a lack of team first perception at times. So for me, I think it's just kind of keeping that maturity and that professionalism throughout the year, no matter what the ups and downs are. Who is this guy? Maybe some maturing.
Well, I imagine this isn't like somebody who's dealing with serious legal issues, right?
And it is not Ja Morant.
No, I wasn't even thinking of Ja. I was thinking about a couple other guys.
No, this is purely like team vibe guy. He's not one of your favorites. I'll give you a hint.
Yeah, well, Westbrook wouldn't have this self-awareness.
It's not Westbrook. No.
Yeah, so he wouldn't do that. I still don't know what he was doing in that Dallas series. Needs to mature a little bit.
I can give you more hints.
Yeah, give me one more hint, and then I'll give up.
He played for the team we just talked. He plays for the team we just talked about.
Oh, D'Angelo Russell.
Correct.
I was gonna say him.
Knew you. I know. I want to trick you a little bit. Back-to-back Lakers stuff.
Yeah, I didn't think you were gonna go back-to-back on me. Yeah. Look, man, that's these guys. The great thing about being a Laker is you're just gonna be podcasting like JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard the other day, going like, I can't believe they got rid of us. Yeah. Holy shit.
Really?
Maybe whatever. So they actually they served a role. They won a title, and so it all kind of worked out. But like AD was the center when it mattered. So,
is he a changed man?
I mean, D'Angelo lit it up this year. Once like what we were talking, a month and a half into the season, 2 months into the season, he was awesome offensively. But I saw some other thing from him the other day, like talking about his defense and that he'd basically been, well, when I'm used the wrong way, like, man, okay. So yeah. All right. We got that one right. I don't really have a ton to add to that.
That's fine. This is another guy that you love. This is a player talking about his somewhat new role this season. The quote is, it's definitely going to involve me a lot. There was a lot of talk when I was in blank, just keep his old team name out, that you can't win like that. But you just saw Luka Doncic last season make the finals playing the exact same way that I played. It is James Harden talking about potentially playing without PG and Kawhi. Probably not what Clippers fans want to hear.
Okay. Now, look, I would say this about Harden, that they came closer than anybody taking out the fully formed Golden State Warriors. All right. And so to just say blindly it doesn't work is probably inaccurate. So I would agree with him on that. But there's a difference between like it can never work versus I don't know if that's the best way to go about things. And if Houston hits a few threes, who knows what happens in 18, the Chris Paul injury, talking about dudes being injured in the playoffs all the time. But I didn't love the quote because it's forgetting that it's not about Luka's approach and how it's similar to Harden's approach, the heliocentric basketball, the high usage rate, and all that kind of stuff. It's that Luka, for the most part, stepped up when he needed to. It's a very convenient way to completely cover for. This isn't about Harden's approach anymore. It's about who he is and who he isn't in playoff games. So it's not even a style of basketball. He's conveniently leaving that part out because, of course, he is. Because all these guys, like Harden's not going to say, well, to be honest with you, I'm a massive disappointment based on who I am in my career, Hall of Fame numbers, All-Star, MVP voting, and all that kind of stuff. But do you trust me? Like, I don't blame you for not trusting me. So I get his point, and I even agree with part of it, but it's also leaving out a massive part of the equation, which is predictable.
It's also 35, and that season we're talking about was 6 years ago.
That's the simplest way. Yeah.
All right. This is maybe my favorite quote of the offseason. We got two more. This is basically a player admitting his team is tanking. He said, quote, It has to be a long-term project. I think we all know that we aren't going to attack the championship this year. It makes no sense for us to try to win every single game as much as we can and sacrifice our development. This might be a tough one.
Yeah, it's Jakob Poeltl. I saw that one, so
I love this quote. I don't want to be fed all the kumbaya butterflies. Tell us how we're going to compete this year. You never know, anything can happen. No, the Raptors aren't going to compete for a championship there. That's what I'd want to hear as a fan. Like I went through 10 years of through 10 years of Magic BS when we got Alfred Payton and Tobias Harris is our best player. Andrew Nicholson is supposed to be the guy. Then it was Jonathan Isaac. I don't want to hear those guys telling us, hey, going to fight for a championship. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it. This season's about development. I actually respect this from Jakob Poeltl.
Well, you sound like someone who's never worked in sales.
Correct. I would be terrible at sales. Like, this product actually kind of sucks. You don't want to buy this. There's another one over there.
We get Ceruti here from the Raptors. He's in, hey, look, if you guys don't want, I don't think I'd get season tickets. Maybe a 4-game plan. Yeah. Wait a couple years, see how the rebuild goes. Yeah, and it was even funnier in his accent doing it. It was like evil guy in a Bruce Willis movie bumming you out for NBA fans, even though it was incredibly honest and pretty rare. So that wasn't a guess because when I saw it, the same thing. I was like, this is actually pretty funny.
My guy. All right, last one. This is a weird learning lesson, I guess. This guy was asked, and everyone saw this, you're going to get this, but this guy was asked what he looked back on from his rookie season and what he learned. And his response was, quote, I look back at all the good food that I had, he said. Yeah, a lot of good food. And you know what I learned from it, thinking about all the games every night, thinking about all the fun I had playing, thinking about how blessed I am to be playing, and the fact that I was able to be here at this age. But people kind of latched on to like your first thing was how awesome the food was. I think we all know this is Scoot Henderson.
Yeah, it's Scoot.
Your guy.
When I saw it, and it's not just the quote, it's his answer and the way he answered it and his tone and his pace. I wanted to be fake. I was worried. I was like, is this fake? And then I was looking for it to be fake. And it was not fake.
No.
It was real. The positives. He's not wrong about the food. Imagine like coming up high school, G League, and now you're traveling with the NBA in NBA cities, 5-star hotels. The access to food is probably unlike anything he's ever had in his life. So he's not wrong there. But yeah, for somebody that is supposed to be the face of a franchise who had a bad rookie season. I mean, there are some moments there as me loving him as much as I did before the draft. I could try to sell you on some of that late season stuff, but I always feel like it can be a little bit like fool's gold. He had some big output games, but the efficiency, the decision making, like on the whole, I do think it got a little bit better, but it was pretty disappointing overall. So you go into it. We've talked to a bunch of people. We had Jalen Suggs on. I forget there was somebody else. We're like, no, he's going to be good. He's going to be good. But sometimes guys just do that because they're just being nice and knowing how tough the job is and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it was a piece of his availability, but that piece, first time through, I was like, what is this answer? So maybe you're gonna have to give me until year 3.
It'd be like I was thinking because I want to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. I don't know what part of media day this could have been later in media day. I don't know. I hope it wasn't like the first question. He just is like, "Hey, food, man," because that'd be like if you bring me out at the Ringer and after the first year, like everyone's like, "All right, we're excited for Ceruti," and then I like screw up a bunch of edits and guests aren't showing up on time and everyone's mad. And it's like, all right, let's have a meeting. Like, all right, what did we learn? What do you feel about last year? What did you like about last year? It's like, yeah, I like the free swag. Like, all right, this is probably not going to go in the right direction that we thought it was going to be.
What was the most beneficial thing in your first year? I got 2 dad hats. I gave one to my dad. And the other thing I'd like to mention is, should we track how well the teams that do the water challenge do this season versus the teams that did not do the water challenge for the social media breakout stuff?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's
Lakers
monitor
like a big
that.
Water challenge team.
Did they? Sixers did it too. And then there was another team that did it. I think it's funny watching it when people don't know what it is. I didn't know what it was until I had seen a bunch of them. Everything was like, I just pour water into this. It seems pretty stupid. Not going to lie, but we'll track. Is it a team building exercise? That could be the benefit of all of it. Okay, subscribe to the Ryen Russillo page here on YouTube. And of course, always check out the podcast on Spotify.